Hi guys, it's Kimberly and you are watching Thriving on a Budget. Something I wanted to talk to you about today specifically is these Augason Farm items. So Augason Farm is popular with a lot of people, especially where people are trying to be more prepared and have something that will still be edible long term on their shelf for emergencies. We have a few on hand, and I not tons, but we do have some on hand, and I've started to learn like which ones I like and which ones I don't. So I thought I'd share that with you if this is something you're looking into buying, just so you can hear my opinion, so you can have an idea of what you might like. So unfortunately, this particular one I'm going to show you went up in price like crazy because of one of the current problems we have. Eggs. Their powdered eggs are super nice to have on hand. Unfortunately, because of chicken issues and egg issues, they jacked them up in price. They used to be $30 like all the time, and now they're like $80 or $100, which is insane. I would not I would not pay that price, but if this is something you already happen to have on hand or something you purchased before the price is jacked up, it's actually quite tasty. It's a usable thing. So the regular powdered eggs, just read the ratios on the container, how much water, how much powder, and you can use it in baking. This one is the powdered scrambled egg, and this is actually pretty good. I thought it was going to be gross. It's not. It tastes very similar to the egg-like products that you get in like breakfast burritos or sandwiches at drive-thrus. It tastes pretty good. I've used it a couple of times. We opened ours specifically because eggs are expensive right now, and I wanted to use eggs in some things, and so that's why I'm actually using it right now. So if you happen to have any powdered eggs from Augason Farms, really good quality product. I think it's worth it. Something to know, something to consider. I personally never noticed this on the packaging. I'm sure it's on there somewhere, but once you open an Augason Farm powdered item, dehydrated item, you're supposed to use it within the year. I'd say that's true with most of them. Some of the dehydrated vegetables I personally would still use after a year, like things like onion. That stuff's still good after a year. My personal opinion. It's a dehydrated vegetable. It's not like there's a lot of fat or protein or something that can go bad in it. So personal preference, if it's a dehydrated vegetable and some of the fruits, I would still use them. But if it's like the egg, if you open one of these and you're not going to use all of it right away, I would say maybe put some of it in the freezer, in like little Ziploc bags or something. Or if you happen to have one of those mason jar sealers or a bag sealer, put it in bags or mason jars and suck out the oxygen, just so you're not wasting it if you're not going to use all of it within a year. So the egg one's quite good. Of course, I like the onion. They have, if you can't get a hold of Augason Farm onions, you can get dried onions at LDS food storage centers. They used to call them canneries. If you happen to know what that is, you can get dried onion there, and they're comparable. I've used both. I've used from the LDS cannery, and I've used it from Augason Farms in my cooking when I'm making like refried beans. I make a lemon jalapeno refried beans that are super, super good, and I always want onion for that. I also use dried onions in soups and things like that. So this, and they're, like I said, they're pretty comparable product-wise, but also in price-ish. So I think at the cannery, you can get the onions for around $10 a can, I think-ish, is what they're at. I know all the prices keep going up and down. That's why I'm saying, not down, up. A lot of prices keep fluctuating and changing, and that's why I said ish. So last time I checked, I think they're around $10 a can from the LDS cannery or LDS food storage center, home storage center, whatever they call it in your area. These, you can pick up the dried onions at your local Walmart or on Amazon. A lot of Walmarts have them, so I guess it just depends what's in stock at your store. So you can get it from the physical store if they have it, or look at the Walmart app or online, or Amazon. So that's a place to look for the onions, and they were still pretty close in price. I think that some places have them for like 12, but 12 versus 10, that's not a ginormous jump. So it's a ridiculous amount of dried onion, and so since I use this in cooking a lot, it made sense to me. So I will try to keep this video not too long and rambly. Eggs are good. Onions, good. Their apples are good. Their bananas are good. And that's saying something from me. I hate banana chips. I hate banana chips. I remember when I was a kid and we'd go on road trips and sometimes somehow banana chips ended up in our car. I hate banana chips. But for someone that does not like the flavor, I think some places like coat them in honey or added sugar or something. And to me, the specific sweet flavor of most banana chips is very off-putting for me. I don't mind the Augason Farms banana chips. Personal preference. So I guess, everybody's different. But as someone that doesn't typically like banana chips, the Augason Farm ones, it just kind of tastes like a dehydrated banana. It's not overly sugary. We've used ours. Not all. Like I opened a can to try it out, and so I used a little bit. You can pair it with cereal or oatmeal. We used them as a little bit of a snack when money was tight, because I wanted to make sure we were still getting like good amounts of potassium in our diet. And so me and my little girl were snacking on them. So the bananas are not bad. So eggs, onions, bananas. What other ones were good? Their soups aren't too bad. One thing I would not buy, personal preference, I know some people love this product, I had a horrible experience with it, is their tomato powder. I would never, ever, 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 ever buy their tomato powder again. So I was really excited about it because it's a way to have a long-term tomato product on your shelf. You can use it for things like pasta sauces and soups and things like that, and that's why I bought it. Whenever you open any of these dehydrated items or freeze-dried items, I would say fish around in the container and make sure you get all of the oxygen absorbers out. Because, sometimes there's only one, or we assume there's only one. Sometimes there's like 2 or 3. And so just kind of fish around in there, make sure you get all of them out so you don't accidentally put it in something, so it's not seeping in water and ruining something you're trying to cook. But also, in case the item is sensitive to the oxygen being pulled out and that changing the texture. So we had a can of the tomato powder, and I thought I'd try it because I was trying to make those dehydrated meals in a jar to see how well that worked for me. I had huge problems with the tomato powder. So it worked okay the first couple times I used it, but almost just a couple days after I opened it, it went rock hard. So whatever amount I'd pulled out to put in some meals in a jar that I was making worked fine. But whatever I left in there, there was still some oxygen absorbers I had missed. And so it ended up like a salt lick, like the kind of stuff you'd give to a cow. It was rock hard. It was not edible, not usable. And so I'm like, okay, what if I break it up? Can I still use it? Because it was $30. I didn't want to waste that. And so I tried to chisel it out with a butter knife, and it had leached the flavor of the oxygen absorber. So everything tastes like chemicals. I'm like, there's no way that's good for you. So I threw it out, and I was super disappointed. So personal preference, since the tomato powder is not a cheap item to begin with, I would not buy it. Bad experience from personal experience. It didn't go well. I know some people really like it. If you do happen to have it and you open it, fish around and make sure you get all the oxygen absorbers out to hopefully have a positive experience with it. And the flavor wasn't good enough for me really to care that much anyway to try again. So that was the one I'd say no to. Some items like this, whether it's Augason Farms or Honeyville Grain or anything like that, we got, what was it? It was freeze-dried sausage TVP. That kind of leached some of the flavor from the oxygen absorber as well. It tasted like chemicals. It was nasty. So I would not do sausage TVP if that happens to be something you find. And I would not do tomato powder. Taco TVP, yes. If you're lucky enough to find taco TVP, that one tastes really good. I know a lot of people don't like texturized vegetable protein, but the taco one, it tastes like taco filling. It tastes like something you can get from a drive-thru, and it's probably something they use in fillers at drive-thrus to save money to make your taco cheaper. I would not be surprised. So taco TVP tastes good. Chicken TVP and beef TVP, they're not great, but it's a way to have some protein stashed away, and you can always cover them in sauce or something to try to get them to take on the flavor of something else. So if you already know that you hate TVP, then don't buy it, or taco TVP is good. personal preference. I like taco TDP. But the chicken or the beef, if you have that or you really want some protein on your shelf, I would encourage you to have a plan on how you want to flavor it. Whether if you want to make it into like sloppy Joe mix or mix it with gravy or something, flavor it because it's an acquired taste and some people don't like it. So consider that. I'm trying to think of any other ones that I've actually tried myself. None are coming to mind off the top of my head, but something to consider, like Augason Farms, decent product. Some of them are quite affordable. Like if you were wanting to get like a canister of the bananas or a pancake mix or something like that, those would be ones to consider because those ones aren't too bad. Those are often around $10 each. And it would just be a way to have a couple long-term storage items. Ooh, another one I would not do. I would say no to Morning Moo. Personal preference. Morning Moo does not taste bad. It actually tastes pretty good. When my husband and I first got married, we had a couple cans of it his mother had given us. We were dirt poor and we were very grateful for it. And it tastes close enough to milk that I had no problem with it. So what you want to do if you are reconstituting some kind of dehydrated milk, you want to, like, most of them do better if you mix them in a warm water and then chill them. Like, think similar to how like you would prep a Jello almost. The warm water is going to reconstitute it better so it's less clumpy. So yeah, mix with warm water, put it in your fridge, let it chill, and it tastes pretty much like milk to me, so I had no problem with it. Here's why I would not invest in them for long-term storage. We had a few on hand that we had bought like 5 years ago, and they're supposed to be good for like, I don't know, 10, 15 years, whatever it's supposed to be. We cracked open to a couple of them during the pandemic, and they were rancid. They were not old, but they were rancid. The reason that some people have problems with Morning Moo going bad before it's supposed to, it does have like powdered oils in it or something, and so that definitely can affect it. And I've heard from other people that they've had the same problem with Morning Moo. I don't know if it's because my kitchen gets hot and that could affect it. Maybe if you had it in a cold basement it would do better, but like I said, it wasn't even, it was like maybe 5 years and we opened it and they were completely rancid, which was such a bummer. If you are wanting to do powdered milk, personal preference, yet again, it's, I haven't tried the Country Fresh one. I don't think they do the oils in it like Morning Moo. Don't take my word for it. Read the label. Ask other people if you know have tried that one. But my personal preference of what I would definitely buy, yet again, if you have access to the LDS food storage center, whether it's the physical store or if you order online, sometimes it's been taking longer since 2020. It's just what it is right now. Their powdered milk is fantastic. It's packaged really well and it's non-fat. I know some people freak out and they're like, oh, I don't like the taste of dehydrated non-fat milk. It lasts longer, so you're not wasting your money. Another option, if you're planning on using it soon-ish, Nido is dehydrated whole milk, and you can get that in the Hispanic section. That tastes fantastic, but because it has fat in it, you will want to use it sooner. It is a good way to have a lot of powdered dairy on your shelf, but you will want to use it and rotate it. But it does pretty well for quite a while. I was impressed. I opened one this last year because I was trying to like test it out, and I have been using it every month, and it's a huge can, and I am the only person in my house that doesn't have a dairy allergy, and so I was the only one that was using it. I've been using it for over a year, and it technically had hit its best by date, and it's still not rancid. So Nido whole milk I had a better experience with than the storage life of Morning Moo. But so I would look into Nido if you're planning on using it and rotating it, or the LDS food storage center for their dehydrated non-fat milk. Those would be the ones I'd consider. Yeah, so that's as far as that goes. My other little tangent I wanted to hit before I leave is always be considering emergency preparedness or self-sufficiency projects. always be trying something new, even if it's not like, it doesn't have to be something big. Make sure that you're stocking up on batteries every now and then. You know, if every time you go to the dollar store, you get a pack or two of batteries, that's doing something productive. Learn how to preserve food. That's a big deal. Okay. So I'm showing you Augason Farms items. Learn how to preserve something yourself, whether you invest in a dehydrator. If you cannot afford a dehydrator, technically you can dehydrate vegetables in your oven on a cookie sheet at a really low setting for like hours and hours and hours. I have no idea how much that actually costs in power. It might be cheaper to get the dehydrator. Those can range from like 40 to like 100 or more. It depends on your budget and your needs. A dehydrator is something to consider. Water bath canning, if you have access to jars and it's something you're willing to learn how to do. There's some really, really easy starter water bath canning recipes. And you don't even need like a super fancy canner. You just need a stock pot. You need a stock pot with a lid. And there's lots of good videos on YouTube that can help you start on some of the simpler things. I will say if you're getting into canning, make sure you're doing approved recipes. Get yourself like a ball canning book that can show you safe, tested recipes. I have made my mistakes over the years, and I remember I didn't understand like the importance of only doing approved recipes when I was like first learning how to can. And so I was looking up recipes on Pinterest, and there was this one lady that was sharing a recipe for blueberry pie filling. And she said, oh yeah, everyone uses pectin. I don't use pectin. I use cornstarch and it works just fine. Cornstarch is fine if you are making it for the freezer. For the freezer. Do not put cornstarch in something you are going to water bath can. It is not approved. It is not acidic enough. It is not a proper thickener for something that you are canning. I did not know any better. And by the time I opened up the blueberry pie filling that I had made when I was learning in the beginning, it smelled like cough syrup. It was a waste of money, unfortunately. It reeked of an alcoholic-like smell because water bath canning is not designed to preserve something with corn, cornstarch. I was going to say corn thickener. It's not designed for cornstarch, okay? So I think I accidentally made something alcoholic. I threw them out. They reeked so bad. So don't do that. Don't waste your money. Make sure you're doing an appropriate recipe. Things that are really easy to start with. The first thing I ever started with, and I had a lot of success with, was apple butter. I loved it. If you have access to apples, or if you have a grocery store that has discount bags of like misshapen or bruised fruit, who cares if the apples are bruised? You're gonna cook them down and mush them anyway. So as long as they're like not gross, apple butter's super easy. So consider learning how to water bath can if you haven't. Something I'm currently working on, one of my self-sufficiency projects, because I'm constantly trying to learn something new. I'm learning how to ferment. I'm learning how to ferment. I'm learning how to ferment on purpose, not for the purpose of alcohol. That's not something I consume. But my first project I'm working on, I'm learning on how to ferment homemade sauerkraut. So excited. I absolutely love sauerkraut. If you have like a chili cheese dog with some sauerkraut and mustard and onions, it's so good. And my great-grandmother used to make homemade sauerkraut. So like, I never had a chance to know her, but I think that's such a cool thing. And I thought she was such a cool person whenever I hear stories about her. So the idea of learning how to preserve in a way that she did is really cool to me. So something to look into if you are interested in learning how to ferment. I am doing like the easiest way possible. So I'm using quart mason jars, and I got some of those little glass fermentation weights that you can get on Amazon that are designed for mason jars. So I have wide mouth canning jars, and the weights fit in the, sorry, I have a tickle in my throat. I'm going to cough in a second. The jars fit, the weights fit perfectly in wide mouth jars. So what you would do if you're doing a sauerkraut like I did You get a head of cabbage and you shred it, and then you mix it with the appropriate amount of salt. So the recipe I was following was for every head of cabbage, you were using 2.5 tablespoons of salt. Okay, so shredded cabbage, 2.5 tablespoons of salt. I did a double batch. And then you just have the shredded cabbage, sprinkle the salt throughout it in a bowl, kind of massage it and mix it around. Leave it alone for at least 10 minutes so it has a chance to wilt. And then you kind of like crush it up with like a wooden spoon, and it just kind of pulls the liquid out of that cabbage and it starts to make liquid, which, you know, so this particular recipe, you weren't covering it in like a saltwater brine. It was simply salt and cabbage, and that was it. And so like I said, you let it sit, you let it wilt, and then you kind of crush it up, and it keeps pulling out more and more and more water out of the cabbage. Put it in jars, put weights in it, and put an appropriate lid on those, so they can ferment for a few days throughout the week, and then you'd put them in the fridge. Or if you happen to live in an older house that has a root cellar, somewhere cold, or if you had a cold basement, okay? Properly fermented food can last for a year. Some people say even a year and a half. And I think that's insane. That's so cool. So I'm excited to play around with that. I don't have time to show you how to do that step by step here, but if that's something you're interested in learning how to do, like learn how to preserve foods, learn how to do this on your own. So if things get crazy, like you have skills that can benefit you and your family. Another project I'm working on, I'm always playing around with gardening, and every year I make a purposeful effort to try something new. And so there will be certain tried and true things that I am trying to grow every year. And then there will be certain things that I will try something new, so I'm not getting overwhelmed by constantly doing something new. There'll be a couple new things. Something I tried for the first time last year and I'm trying again this year is, I believe it's called succession gardening, where you grow stuff in your garden for the season, harvest things accordingly, and then when you have an area that the plant has been harvested or it's dead or whatever, you plant something new that's season appropriate. So one of the things that some of the things that we had to pull up early was our snow peas and our red onions. So because of the extreme heat right now, my onions were, how would I say this? They were stressed. My onions were stressed, and so I pulled them up early so they could still be used, because they were going to seed and stuff like that. And so I would rather actually have a chance to use the onion bulb. And then the other thing is the snow peas. We actually got a pretty good harvest off of them before they started dying and wilting because of the extreme heat, because it's July and I live in a desert. So we pulled up those, and I looked up what is appropriate items to start gardening in July in zone 7. So like learn what your zone is, so like you can try for different seasons. Okay, what can I plant now? What can I plant now? Because if you just get comfortable with, here's the only things I ever know how to grow. My first successful garden, because I've gardened a couple of times, but my first one that was successful and actually worked, I was doing cool weather crops. I was doing radishes, and I was doing carrots, and I was doing potatoes and things like that, and they were doing well. So, but if I just stuck to, oh, and also herbs, but if I just stuck to cool weather crops and I never branched out, if I had to like supplement what my family's eating off what I can grow, if I only know how to grow stuff in the spring, I am doing myself a disservice. So like I said, this year, like when I had to pull up stuff that had died or stuff that I was going to use, I decided to reuse my raised beds for the next month. And so it's July. What can you plant in July? And so, since I consider myself still a newbie in gardening, even though I've done it for, I don't know, 5 years, at least I'd say I would consider myself having done gardening for 5 years. I stock up on the cheap seeds. I do have some nicer heirloom seeds, but I don't use those for my garden yet. The reason for that is I still view myself in practice mode, so I don't want to spend $3.50 or $5 each pack of seeds because it gets expensive. I'd rather fail with cheap seeds, and then in the future, if I get more comfortable with growing certain items, I could do heirloom and then work more on my seed saving skills. So here is my little container of seeds. This was an empty peanut jar, and I buy the dirt cheap seeds. I get the cheap seeds at Walmart, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, Ace Hardware. I get the ones that are 20 cents to 99 cents. Those are the ones that I buy because, like I said, if I totally screw up something and I can't grow it properly, if I didn't know that something needed more shade or more water or more sun or more deeper, a deeper place for its roots to throw down. Like each plant is so different, and you'll learn as you're playing around with growing stuff what works and what doesn't. And so I am constantly playing with something. So the two that I chose to do as part of my succession gardening that I threw into my July garden is beans and okra. Those are the ones that I chose to try because beans tend to do pretty well in droughts and hot weather. And okra, I like okra, and I just thought it would be fun to try it out and see how well it grows. Some people don't really like okra. I enjoy it. I like to slice it and pan fry it in like a skillet or something, or a stir fry. To me, it tastes like cheesy, oniony, slimy goodness. Like it's so weird. It puts off like these strings when you pan fry it, and they taste cheesy and oniony is the best way I can describe it. So some people boil okra. That's not how I personally do it. I've pan fried it and I really like it that way. So like I said, my projects right now, I'm learning how to ferment vegetables, and I am learning how to do more better succession gardening and playing around with certain things I've never grown before. So I definitely encourage you to seek out knowledge, teach yourself, learn, watch videos, read books, learn how to do a couple self-sufficiency things that you haven't done before or that you don't know how to do. It's only going to bless your life and help you. Sorry for a long video. I did not mean for it to be this long, but I hope that this was helpful to you guys, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.